Welcome to the Mind Spark, bringing you the latest news from around the world. Good evening. Tonight, we're diving into a story of identity, pride, and the unraveling of one of the world's oldest alliances, the US and Canada. The border, once a symbol of peace, is now a front line, not of soldiers, but of consumers. Canadians have launched a grassroots boycott of 10 major US brands, turning everyday purchases into powerful political statements. This is the story of the Great Canadian Boycott of 2025. It all began, as so many stories do, with something simple, a cup of coffee. But this wasn't just any coffee. It was the daily ritual for millions of Canadians, a comforting start to the morning, a moment of pause in a busy world. For years, Starbucks had been woven into the fabric of Canadian life. Its green logo, a familiar sight on bustling city streets and quiet suburban corners alike. With a cup of coffee, friendships were forged, business deals were struck, and students found solace during late-night study sessions. Starbucks was more than a brand, it was a meeting place, a second home for many. But beneath the surface, tensions were brewing. As political rhetoric from Washington grew sharper and new tariffs were imposed, Starbucks, once seen as a friendly neighbor, began to represent something else: American overreach. The coffee giant became a lightning rod for frustration, a symbol of how global corporations could overshadow local culture and identity. That's when the #Cafe Not Coffee movement took off. It started as a whisper on social media, a few posts here and there, but quickly grew into a national conversation. Canadians from all walks of life began sharing their favorite local cafes, posting photos, and encouraging friends to support homegrown businesses instead of the global giant. The shift was swift and dramatic. Office workers who once lined up at Starbucks before work now gathered at independent shops, discovering new flavors and reconnecting with their communities. Students found cozy corners in local cafes, retirees enjoyed friendly banter with neighborhood baristas, and a sense of pride blossomed as people realized the power of their choices. The impact was undeniable. Starbucks sales plummeted across the country. By the fall, hundreds of locations had closed their doors, some seemingly overnight. The once unstoppable coffee chain was suddenly on the defensive, its future in Canada uncertain. But for many, the closure was about more than just business. It became a rallying point, a symbol of ordinary people standing up to a corporate giant, reclaiming their communities, and making their voices heard. The movement sparked conversations about local identity, economic independence, and the true meaning of community. The boycott had its first major victory, and for the first time in years, the story of Canadian coffee was being written by Canadians themselves, one cup at a time. After Starbucks, all eyes turned to McDonald's. The golden arches, once woven into Canadian life, became a target as the boycott gained momentum. Why support an American chain when local burger joints and Canadian-owned brands like Harvey's and A&W were right there? McDonald's tried to emphasize its Canadian ties, but the perception stuck. Profits flowed south. Sales dropped, and the once busy restaurants grew quiet. The golden arches lost their shine in Canada. For years, Amazon Prime was more than just a subscription. It was a way of life for millions of Canadians. The convenience of fast shipping, exclusive deals, and a vast selection of products made it feel almost indispensable. Families eagerly awaited their familiar brown boxes, and the Prime logo became a symbol of modern shopping. Whether it was groceries, electronics, or last-minute gifts, Prime was the go-to solution for busy Canadians everywhere. But then, a nationwide boycott sparked a new conversation. Canadians began to ask themselves a difficult question. Should we try living without Amazon? Was it possible to break free from the grip of one-click shopping and instant gratification, even if it meant changing long-standing habits? The #Cancel Prime movement quickly gained momentum, encouraging Canadians to look beyond convenience and consider the impact of their purchases. People started supporting local businesses, even if it meant waiting a bit longer for their orders or paying a little extra. The movement wasn't just about boycotting a company, it was about building stronger communities and making more thoughtful choices. As more and more Canadians canceled their Prime memberships, something remarkable happened. Local online retailers and traditional brick-and-mortar stores experienced a renaissance. Main streets buzzed with new energy, and small business owners saw a surge in customers eager to shop local. Amazon's once unstoppable growth in Canada began to slow. Headlines reported on the company's struggles, and fulfillment centers saw fewer trucks coming and going. It was a clear sign that even the world's largest e-commerce giant could be challenged by collective action. Across the country, Canadians rediscovered the value of community. Farmers' markets and local events became gathering places, and supporting small businesses felt more rewarding than ever. The shift wasn't just economic, it was cultural. The era of one-click dominance was truly shaken. Canadians realized that convenience, while tempting, wasn't everything. In choosing to support their neighbors and local entrepreneurs, they redefined what it meant to shop in the digital age. Walmart's promise to save money, live better, once resonated deeply. But the boycott reframed the question: what's the real cost of low prices? Canadians began to see Walmart as a drain on local economies, choosing instead to shop at Canadian Tire, Loblaws, and Sobeys. Walmart's efforts to highlight its Canadian workforce fell flat. National retailers saw a resurgence, waving the maple leaf with pride. The boycott breathed new life into Canadian competitors. Coca-Cola, a global icon recognized in nearly every corner of the world, suddenly found itself at the center of an unexpected battle. A new kind of cola war, this time not against Pepsi, but against a rising tide of Canadian nationalism. For decades, Coke had been a staple in Canadian homes, restaurants, and celebrations, its red can a familiar sight at every gathering. But now, the landscape was shifting. The boycott, sparked by a wave of patriotic sentiment, put the spotlight on homegrown alternatives and challenged the dominance of this American giant. Suddenly, local sodas like Brio Chinoto and Beck Cola, once niche favorites, were thrust into the limelight. Grocery aisles that had long been dominated by international brands began to feature more made-in-Canada products, as shoppers actively sought out beverages that reflected their national pride. The simple act of choosing a drink became a statement, a way for Canadians to support their own economy and culture. In stores and at checkout counters, customers paused, considering their options more carefully than ever before. Picking a soda was no longer just about taste or habit, it was about identity. For many, reaching for a Canadian brand felt like a small but meaningful act of patriotism, a way to stand together during a time of national tension. Restaurants and bars responded quickly, swapping out Coke for Canadian brands on their menus. Bartenders poured craft sodas with pride, and farmers' markets saw a surge in artisanal soda vendors. The craft soda scene exploded, with new flavors and brands popping up across the country, each one offering a unique taste of Canada's diverse regions. The impact on Coca-Cola was immediate and dramatic. Shelves that once overflowed with Coke products now stood empty or sparsely stocked. News reports highlighted the company's rapidly declining market share in Canada, and loyal customers found themselves reconsidering their choices. Decades of brand loyalty seemed to evaporate almost overnight, replaced by a newfound enthusiasm for local options. The iconic red can, once a symbol of refreshment and good times, now represented something more complicated, a fractured relationship between Canada and one of America's most famous exports. Images of Coke cans discarded or set aside became powerful symbols in news stories and social media, reflecting a nation's changing mood. In the end, Canadians found new reasons to celebrate. They toasted with their own flavors, discovering and embracing the rich variety of sodas made right at home. The cola wars had gone cold for Coke, but for Canadian brands, a new era was just beginning. Harley-Davidson's roar once symbolized freedom, but in 2025, it sounded uncomfortably American. Canadian riders began trading in their Harleys for homegrown Can-Am motorcycles. Dealerships saw a dramatic shift. Harley sales plummeted, while Can-Am thrived. The boycott turned a symbol of rebellion into a symbol of division. Even brands built on identity weren't immune. The open road in Canada now had a new Canadian-made soundtrack. Nike's Just Do It became Just Don't Do It in Canada. The boycott wasn't just about American origins. It was about redefining Canadian cool. Lululemon, Roots, Arc'teryx, and other Canadian brands surged as consumers ditched the swoosh. Influencers and athletes championed local alternatives. Nike's massive campaigns felt out of touch, and sales dropped. Patriotism became the new trend in Canadian fashion. Budweiser, the self-proclaimed king of beers, lost its crown in Canada. The boycott accelerated the craft beer revolution, with local breweries taking over taps and shelves. Bars and liquor stores celebrated Canadian pride, and Budweiser sales collapsed. The brand's American imagery felt alienating. The shift empowered thousands of small brewers and changed Canada's beer culture. Canadians chose local champions over imported royalty. KFC's iconic bucket became a relic as Canadians craved something different. The boycott led to a culinary exploration. Independent fried chicken spots flourished. Social media buzzed with recommendations for local favorites. KFC's standardized recipe couldn't compete with authentic family-run alternatives. Sales dropped, and franchisees struggled. Canadians wanted food with a story, and a Canadian one. The boycott reached beyond products to experiences, like higher education. U.S. universities, once the dream for many Canadians, saw applications plummet. Political tensions and soaring costs made American degrees less appealing. Canadian universities seized the moment, highlighting world-class programs and affordability. Domestic applications surged, and Canada became a top destination for international students. The brain drain reversed, boosting Canadian institutions. The boycott reshaped the future of education. The Great Canadian Boycott of 2025 proved that the most powerful political statements can be made at the cash register. Canadians showed that national pride and community spirit can outweigh convenience and low prices. Grassroots activism, amplified by social media, shifted markets and challenged corporate giants. The real power lies in our daily choices. Was this a unique moment or the dawn of a new era in conscious consumerism? Only time will tell.